In this problem, we're given a graph of a function, and if we look at it, it's actually a quadratic function, and we're asked to write it in vertex form and standard form, which means we're going to have to gather some information from our graph in order to make this possible. So the easiest form to do first is vertex form. And I'm circling vertex because if we know the vertex, we can write the equation in vertex form. So let's just do this again. Vertex form is y is equal to a x minus h squared plus k. And our vertex is the hk. So our vertex is the peak, which would be right here. So that's my special hk. I'm going to write hk. And that would be -5 and 4. Okay, so now that I know that, I can go ahead and begin to write the equation in vertex form. So I have y is equal to a x minus, well, what's my h? My h is -5 squared plus 4. So be careful with this because this minus, the value here of my x, is not the same as this minus here. It's a minus minus, which gives me y is equal to a x plus 5 squared plus 4. Okay, so now we need to figure out what our value of a is. Well, if I know another x and a y, another point, then I can solve for a. Well, this right here is an xy, and that's the value -2, 1. So if I substitute in -2, 1 for x and y, then I can solve for a. So let's go ahead and do that. So my y, be careful, my y is 1, and I'm solving for a. So I'm going to leave a in red. And my x is -2. So now I only have one variable. So I have to do my order of operations. So remember, grouping, exponents, multiplication, division, whichever comes first, adding or subtracting, whichever comes first, from left to right. So do I have anything that's been grouped? Right here, that's been grouped. So this is giving me 1 is equal to a. Then I have -2 plus 5, which is 3, and that's squared plus 4. So then the next thing I need to look at is, do I have any exponents? I do, right here. So that's going to be 1 is equal to, I'm going to write that in front. 3 squared is 9, times a is the same as 8 times 9, plus 4. Okay. So now I ask myself, do I have any multiplication or division happening? Well, I do right here, but there's nothing I can do about that. So I've totally simplified this whole right side. Okay? So remember, when I'm simplifying, I'm going the normal way. But now I want to solve for a, which means if I'm solving, I'm going to do this backwards. So the question is, am I have anything adding or subtracting happening? And I do. I have a plus 4, which means I'm going to get rid of that by subtracting 4. So 1 minus 4 is -3. And so now, do I have any multiplication division happening? And I do. So I'm going to unmultiply or divide. So that means I have negative 1/3 is equal to A. But remember, I'm not done. I have to substitute that back up into this. So that A, negative 1/3, needs to be put up into my original equation. So if I have vertex form of that equation, it's going to be y is equal to negative 1/3 x plus 5 squared plus 4. So this here is my first answer. But I also need to put this in standard form. So let's look up here. Vertex form looked like this, but the question is, what does standard form look like? So standard form looks like y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. So now I want to get this form into this form. So if you notice, we're not solving for anything. We're simply going to do out the math, which means we're going to just simplify by doing our order of operations. So let's keep that in mind with this while doing our order of operations. I'm going to rewrite this. So y is equal to negative 1/3 x plus 5 squared plus 4. So I'm simplifying, which means I'm going to look for anything being grouped first. I have x plus 5, that's being grouped, but I can't combine them because they're not like terms. But I have this exponent that happens next, which means I need to do this yellow part right here next. So let's write out what that actually looks like. So that's y is equal to negative 1/3 x plus 5 x plus 5 plus 4. I've just expanded x plus 5 squared. So everything that's in yellow is the same thing. So now I'm going to go ahead and multiply this. So this is going to be x times x, which is x squared, and then x times 5, which is plus 5. Then if I go and do distribute in the 5, I'm going to have 5 times x, which is, hold on, I'm missing an x here. It should be, x times 5 is 5x, sorry. And then this one, if I have 5 times x, I have plus 5x. And then 5 times 5, I have 25. Okay, so remember, this is all in yellow. That is one number, so I have to remember to keep that inside the parentheses, because all of this is being multiplied by negative 1/3, and I also have this plus 4 here on the outside. Okay, so I can simplify this. Those are like terms. So that gives me y is equal to negative 1/3 times x squared plus 10x plus 25 plus 4. So now the next thing, I did the exponents, so now the next thing to look for is multiplication. Right here is multiplication. What I need to remember is this negative 3 is being multiplied, negative 1/3 rather, is being multiplied to everything inside those parentheses. So that means I then have y is equal to negative 1/3 x squared minus 10/3 x minus 25/3 And then I'm done with the multiplication, so I don't need my parentheses anymore. And then I have my plus 4. I'm almost done. The last thing I have to do is I have to combine my like terms, which is right here. So if you're struggling with fractions, you can simply do this in the calculator. I'm just going to do it in the calculator for sake of time. Negative 25 thirds plus 4. Now I don't want a decimal response, so I'm going to do math and then frac, and it's going to give me negative 13 thirds. So that means this equation, y is equal to negative 1/3 x squared minus 10 thirds x minus 13 thirds. So this is standard form. I'm going to write here standard form. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to check to make sure that these two graph exactly the same, just in case I made a mistake. So I'm going to go to my y equals. I'm going to clear out what's in my y equals, and I'm going to put in my vertex form. Negative 1/3 x, parentheses, x plus 5 squared plus 4. And then I'm going to put in my standard form. Negative 1/3 x squared minus 10 thirds x minus 13 thirds. And hopefully I did not make a mistake, and they should graph the same. So the first one came in, and you can see that that second one is coming right on top of it. Another way to double check as we go to our tables, our y's should be exactly the same. So if I go to second table, you can see that my y values are exactly the same, which means that I did this correctly. These are exactly the same. So you have just taken information from a graph, and you are able to write the equation both in vertex form and standard form.